Hey everybody, welcome back. I just wanted to discuss with you a topic that I've been reflecting on quite a bit within psychoanalytic theory, which is level of psychological development or organization of personality. So in my kind of limited experience working with patients, there's like a continuum, right? Really sick to basically what I think of as being very stressed. And when we think about the very, very sick level, there isn't an ability to understand what we might consider reality. So as we have this conversation, we are sort of sharing our minds, and we can read each other's minds, and we can test reality in that way. So maybe I'm a paranoid structure, and I'm feeling kind of insecure, or I'm feeling kind of worried. This is actually quite normal for someone with a paranoid structure. But as we move down the continuum, someone who might be psychotically organized or borderline organized would have a hard time differentiating from what might be considered an actual thing to be worried about in reality, and one that is very much a product of something that we think of as primitive projection. And when we say primitive, we mean lower level of functioning. Primitive just is associated with a defense mechanism that is less developed. So we use primitive defense mechanisms when we are hanging out at the lower level of functioning, if we're psychotic or borderline. And those defenses really keep us from having much of a sense of self at all. And they keep us from actually being able to properly ascertain whether or not our rationality is reflecting objective reality, which might be considered the minds and intentions of other people. So there's this amazing sort of relational fabric, right? And we can imagine we're pulling on the relational fabric when we're doing something like theory of mind. But if we're pulling too hard and we split that, then we don't really know what's real and what is not. But as a consequence, we actually don't see ourselves as clearly either. We don't trust our reasons. So this is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with someone who's very unhealthy versus stressed. And we talk about neurotic organization and psychotic organization on the one hand. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I've been reflecting a lot on some experiences I've had where, as someone who's neurotic, you could say, wants to be helpful, but I want to understand, and I want to communicate my understanding. In an ideal world, we would tell people what they need and what they want, and they would respond to that, and everything would be fine. We might do what's called interpretation. So if I give an interpretation, and it sort of reflects the experience you're having, you can feel very understood. You can feel very comforted by that. It might bother you, but in a way that is good for your growth, and you can see it. But as we move down the less healthy levels of functioning, most of what is needed is something that I think of as safety, specifically physical safety, because the thoughts and the attitudes and the feelings and the sense of self really, which may or may not be present at all, are inducing mechanisms associated with disassociation, splitting, denial, primitive projection, these very primitive organizations of personality. So when we want to help people who are kind of operating at that level of functioning, the primary goal is to sort of enter into the world of what I think of as affect more directly, the world of sort of the body, of sensation, but really images as well. Images. So if you're looking at me and you're looking at my face, you can sort of like predict my affect, get a sense of how I'm feeling internally, etc. But if you're at a borderline or psychotic level of functioning, you can misinterpret signals. You can sort of believe that whenever someone's angry that, well, it must have something to do with you. But this is not the case, and this is the cause of much suffering. So this is what we need in psychiatry. We need to help people build the skill of theory of mind who are lacking it, to flex that skill, to build the ego functioning again. But this requires, at its root, at its deepest level, a sense of physical safety. So please provide that safety for as many people as possible, and you'll be changing the world. Bye-bye.